I've asked my colleague, my former colleague, Ahmed, to speak to you about really international business, a little bit about his background and where we worked together and what we did, what his responsibilities were when we did work together, and the surprise will be who he's working for now. So please listen. This is a very distinguished business person, and let's go from there. Ahmed.
Thanks for the introduction, Gary. I appreciate it, and thanks for inviting me. So let me start with a little bit of introduction about myself. My name is Ahmed El-Saqqa. You can call me Saka for the ease of your pronunciation. I'm a father of newly born triplet, 6 months young now. A bit of an interesting life so far. Just a disclaimer before I start. I don't promise you perfect English because English is not my first language. So I'm flexing here to communicate cross-culturally and to drive some points home. And I ask you to do the same and flex and bear with me to understand me, and communication happens. If there is something that is not clear, you can ask me, Gary, follow-up questions and things like that to keep me in check. But I promise you and your students to communicate as effective as possible. Hopefully you find some of my ideas that I will be sharing here today beneficial and or even motivating. Back to introduction. About myself, I'm a content creator. I create short videos and posts about various topics in life and business. A big advocate for critical thinking. Even my series is called فكر فيها in Arabic, which translates to think about it. I like to present myself to the world as a writer, although I only have one book published. Its title can be translated to Your Guide to the Stupidest 15 Plans in Life and Business. دليلك إلى 15 خطة في منتهى الغباء. It's a self-help book with practical advice that helps the reader to avoid falling into those behavioral traps or get out of them if they are already in there. So the book is in Arabic, so I'm not trying to sell you anything, at least for the time being. In terms of my professional life, I've been working in the training and development industry for the past 12 years. I have a great passion for learning, especially self-directed learning, simply because I believe it can both save you and make you a lot of money. I'm not shy to tell that or to admit that self-directed learning helped me change my social class and get into a better life financially, mentally, and overall. And I'm not alone in this. A lot of people that I know have followed the same path. I've been working for Amazon for the past 5 years. I'm currently working as a learning experience manager. I manage a team of professional training creators or curriculum designers, let's say for the simplicity of terms. Before that, I worked for Schneider Electric for 3 years. That's where I had the pleasure to work with Professor Gary. I was a curriculum designer back then, and Gary was my favorite subject matter expert, working together on critical safety projects and complex engineering programs. And by programs, I mean training programs.
Our class is actually business communications, and we assume the attitude is that we're a very diverse company. Well, we're a very diverse community and in the classroom, as are businesses today. But how do we communicate to that customer anywhere in the world that this is a great product for you? How you would communicate?
All right, so language. So speaking generally, first, English was a learning journey for me, not a very straightforward one, I tell you. As you know, business English communication can be a bit of challenge. When English is not your first language, the challenge doubles. I mostly learned English on my own. I learned some basics in the school, watched online videos, attended a couple of courses, watched and listened to movies, songs, practiced a bit with English speakers. I remember picking something or two from some podcasts, learning podcasts like ESL or English as a Second Language podcast. Like I used to be seriously engaged into this process of learning, like having a pen and a paper, taking notes, like pausing and putting whatever I'm learning into context that is personal and suits me so that I can retain it better. A couple of things that I've learned about communication, especially with a diverse audience, is that focus on being clear more than focusing on being clever. Like, use simple words, no flowery language, minimal jargons, objective descriptions, so on. Another thing that's helped me with business communication is never depending on common sense, right? I learned that common sense is not so common. It's a natural tendency for us as humans to assume things in general. Sometimes I take things for granted and I don't explain, assuming that people understand what I'm talking about. And through experience, I discovered that I was so wrong. Now, when I'm the presenter in a meeting, I start with disclaimers, like the one that I told you at the very beginning. I tell them, hey, I might assume that you know something because I know it. So if you catch me doing so, stop me and ask me questions to keep me honest and in check. I like to say effective communication is not the responsibility of only one party. It's a shared responsibility. In other words, if I'm not clear, tell me. If I'm not respectful, tell me. Don't assume bad intentions and take things personally and start acting upon it. Always assume ignorance first, especially in cross-cultural communication.
I appreciate that. And really, you've almost talked about what we call the syllabus of our class, of the diversity and respectful language, and how to let people know in the business world when it's kind of not okay. That's okay. The open communications. Frankly, the business is really unites. You're all there for a reason. With that, I think just do you have any more points that you'd like to make?
Mostly what I have to say here, or I want to share with you, I don't want to talk about sexy stuff like AI, cloud engineering, fancy business degrees. That doesn't have to be for everyone. Like, if you have initial passion for that, go explore that. It's your time to explore. But there are skills that are more fundamental and set you apart from 90% of the population. And I have 4 of those that I can share with college students in general that will help them immensely, as I hope. So first, definitely self-directed learning. As I said, this can both save you a lot of money and make you a lot of money. I believe that learning is the ultimate superpower and you don't take it slightly. Like, this is art and science, right? So read a bit about that and learn how to learn. Number 2, personal bookkeeping. So without learning how to manage your resources, assets, liabilities, you will have a lot of regrets when you are in your 30s. I assure you that. Number 3, business acumen. So this is crucial as it really sets the person apart from everybody else. I'm a manager and I usually interview people. I tell you, business acumen was the differentiator for many successful candidates. All of them are great in technical stuff, but the one who has like the business acumen is like golden for me and for a lot of employers. Number 4, last but not least, a package of amazing skills that is called 21st century skills. It teaches you critical thinking, communication, creativity and innovation, information literacy, problem solving, emotional intelligence, and much more. I enjoy learning and teaching those kind of things. I really love it. So I recommend it all the time until people get bored sometime. But I'm not here to please anyone, really. I'm just sharing what I think is right. Yeah, so that's pretty much it.
I love that. Ask any employer. They're looking for that 21st century skills, which is not so much an engineering degree. It's a people degree. With that, I just want to conclude this wonderful talk and very, very much appreciated. I'm sure my students will appreciate it.
So Gary, you asked me a lot of questions, and great questions, by the way. I want to ask you one question. One thing that sets you apart from 95% of the seniors and engineers who I know is that you're fun. Like, I mean it, right? When I look to your posts on Facebook, I see a huge emphasis on long life learning and having fun. So how do you manage to keep this fun part alive?
So one thing I tell my students is what's meant so much to me is mentors. And mentors, are your parents, friends, but bosses, usually a little bit older than you, that tell you how wrong you are. And you're really, and one of my and there it's as Steve Jobs would say, it's, you know, the mistakes you make, what you learn from. So mentors is the first part of the answer. And just specifically, I remember I asked a mentor in the engineering world, well, how am I doing? And he gave me an honest answer. He said, well, if you want to get to this place, you're behind. You're not working hard enough. Now, if you want to get to this place, which I think you're actually going, I think you're doing fine. In other words, he kind of knew what I was doing. I loved engineering. I loved working in that environment, but I'm more of a people person. That maybe I can brag a little and say you know, that 21st century. And what I also tell my students, where I've had the fortune, I worked my career to work for places that I believed in the message. When I worked for Schneider and the company that they acquired called Triconics, I actually, when I was in the meetings, I went out of the room, I believed it. I truly believe in, now you may say, well, our customer is oil and gas. What's so sexy about that? Well, renewability, digitization. I'm a true believer. I'm a true believer of the university in the value of that degree and the value of learning. So I just, if you get into a situation where you believe in it, that's the situation you want to put yourself in, because if you do, you're going to enjoy it, you're going to have job satisfaction, and you're going to have fun.
Amazing answer, Gary. Thank you so much for sharing this. I think this is great value to transfer to my audience here. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate it.
Can you give us a greeting in your language?
Okay, so let me say that. أتمنى ليكم كل التوفيق. ما أتمنى لكوش حياة سهلة على قد ما أتمنى لكم إن أنتوا تبقوا أقوى عشان تتعاملوا مع التحديات المختلفة. لأن ما أعتقدش إن في حياة سهلة بتعرفها ذاته، يعني الموضوع مش سهل. Which translates in English, I hope you all the best, and I don't wish you an easy life, but I wish that you're stronger to deal with it and navigate through it.
Wonderful wisdom. Thank you so much. We will see you next time.